Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing the 1995 and 1997 versions of Dorian Yates. Many of you know that 1997 was probably his worst Olympia winning year, and one of the most controversial Olympias, while 1995 was one of his most dominant and impressive winning versions. I wanted to do this comparison because many people do think that Dorian was horrendously off in 97, so this should help in determining how off he really was. Anyways, before the video does start, a like and sub would be much appreciated, and a follow to my Instagram would really make my day. With that all being said though, let's get into this video. Alright guys, starting off this comparison is the front double, and here it is clear that neither physiques are the best in this pose. Dorian's torn bicep is evident in both years, however 1997's additional injuries and flaws are much more glaring. His waistline appears less streamlined and tight in 1997 due to insulin and growth hormone usage, and his torn tricep only adds to his worsening symmetry. Apart from that, both years are similar in conditioning, with 1995 being a bit tighter and 1997 being a bit, larger looking. While the first flaw many of you will notice is the disparities within the arms, I do think that 1997's bloated gut is what truly throws off the pose. Had his midsection been just as controlled as 1995, I do think that this pose would be a lot closer than it is. The front lat spread was one of Dorian's best frontal poses since his arm problems were never really too noticeable. In 1995, you can see that he is flexing his chest and standing with a straight-legged stance, while in 1997 he has a bent knee and isn't flexing his chest. The pictures are taken at different angles, which alters the amount of lat visibility, making 1997 look less filled out than in 1995. In reality, Dorian's lats would only have progressed throughout his career, so I'd be pretty confident in saying that his lats would look similar in both years. Quads do look massive and cut for both, however neither year has the best outer sweep. Again, the main weakness of 1997 is his midsection, which, although it's being washed out due to the camera flash, looks bloated and undetailed. While 1995 isn't super detailed by any means, at least he does present it in a much more tapered and streamlined manner. 1997 is really massive and dense, however the flaws that plagued him during his career seem to have caught up with him. Here's the side chest, and in this pose both versions look pretty comparable. Dorian was a master at hiding his flaws when he could, and here his tears and midsection issues are virtually unnoticeable. Both years have amazing conditioning, dense and grainy upper bodies, and similar conditioning and size in the legs. 1995 does look a little bit better due to the darker quality of the photo, and therefore better detail overall. However, 1997 has all the detail and all the size of 1995, apart from small things like cuts in the serratus and overall midsection definition. I'd say that Dorian certainly managed to create a very competitive shot in 1997, presenting basically all the same qualities as 1995. The rear double is, in my opinion, Dorian's best back pose, and looking at the back really tells the entire story. He has perfect development everywhere, amazing separation and conditioning, and pretty decent leg size. The torn bicep isn't all that noticeable either, however 1997's torn tricep is slightly visible from behind. That being said, the biggest difference you may notice is within the lower bodies, as it seems as if 1995 is less conditioned than 1997, especially in the glutes. This isn't the case though, as the next picture will reveal that 1995 was just as, if not more conditioned than 1997. In terms of the backs themselves, I'd say that they are practically the same. 1997 may have slightly better traps and lat width, however the differences in the upper bodies are negligible to say the least. What I can say is that the post is an all-around amazing one in both years, with the injuries and problems being somewhat of an afterthought. Here's the Christmas tree pose, and you can really see what I was talking about for the conditioning. Look at how dry and diced Dorian's glutes are for both years, particularly in 1995, which really does look ridiculous. These close-up shots really do reveal the grainy quality he was most famous for, a key difference between him and most of his competition. His perfectly feathered lats and extremely dense back are on full display as well, which all really do highlight the insanity of his backside. These pictures for the rear lat spread don't really show the conditioning that we just saw, however they are the most similar in angles. Look at how wide his lats are in both, how thick his traps are, and how well-rounded and dense his back is in both years. The similarities are very clear, and it's really hard to discern any true difference between the two. 1997 may have wider lats, however, the differences in the angles and things like that all can contribute to slightly, different differences. This second look isn't at any better of an angle, however, the conditioning is very easily seen. Glutes and hamstrings are relatively even, with the calves being absolutely monstrous for both years. The backs look near perfection, showcasing excellent size, density, and width, especially in those wide traps and super thick lats. The lower backs are also cut and crisp, leaving me at a loss for words when trying to find any noticeable differences. I think it's pretty safe to say that Dorian at his worst was still the best from behind. The side tricep was probably the better of the two side shots for Dorian, since he was able to perfectly execute a shot where he hid his weaknesses and played into his strengths. One of the most recognizable and unfortunately not included aspects of this pose was his trailing calf, which was a prime example of him playing into his strengths. Here, we can see that arm for arm both do look similar in the tricep and bicep, with 1997's brachialis only appearing a bit smaller than in 1995. Apart from that, the arm is about the same width, and the rest of the entire upper body looks pretty good. The only thing that I can notice is that Dorian's midsection protrudes a bit in 1997, which mars his flow. Had he posed in a similar way in 1995, or had the angle been similar to 1995 from the camera, then maybe the pose would be more comparable, but as it is, 1995 looks better due to the more controlled and streamlined midsection. To be fair though, 1997 does look pretty reminiscent of 1995, going to show you that he really was not quote-unquote bad. The ab and thigh is a pose I was most interested in seeing because of the previous frontal midsection differences between 1997 and 1995. In the pose though, it seems as if Dorian's waist in 1997, while a bit wider, is controlled, deeply separated, and detailed. Moreover, his extremely wide lats create for an impressive V-taper, and his quads and calves are also massive. The 1995 photo is taken at a slight angle, which makes his waist appear smaller than it is, and helps him create an even more ridiculous looking taper. Although the differences wouldn't be this stark, in reality 1995's midsection is guaranteed to be more streamlined, or at least slimmer than in 1997. Since it is pretty safe to say that the quad separation and lower body development was almost even between the two, I would go with 1995 for the better lines. Still, I am pretty impressed with 1997 since I did think that this pose would be a really bad one for him. Here's the last pose of this comparison, the most muscular, a pose which was never Dorian's best shot against others. To be fair, the pose wasn't a mandatory one during his reign, but in this comparison it doesn't really matter since he's being compared to himself. Looking at his physiques, I do think that it is pretty clear that the conditioning and size are similar. However, I'm pretty sure that from a frontal angle, the torn bicep and tricep and the slightly larger waist may be more noticeable. That being said, these two pictures are almost indistinguishable apart from the backgrounds, since nearly everything is the same between the two. Same sized quads, arm development is pretty good, chest thickness and midsection detail are all on point. I'm pretty impressed with his most muscular for 1997, as I did think that he would look worse considering how bloated his midsection was in the first two poses, and due to the arms playing an integral part in the pose. Alright guys, that about does it for this video. Honestly, I think that Dorian's 1997 version wasn't as bad as many people think. Sure, he looked noticeably different in the front lat spread and front double, however, every other pose was pretty comparable, if not the same. I think that people tend to heavily criticize the poses in which the flaws were pretty evident while not acknowledging that he was still spot on in others. While I do agree that he maybe wouldn't have won the front double, front lat spread, the side chest, and ab and thigh, he was super dominant in the side tricep, both back poses, and even in the most muscular. Maybe he probably wouldn't win that one though. If anything, he probably won the front lat spread for the freak factor and conditioning, and he probably also could have won the ab and thigh due to his size and crazy taper. Do let me know in the comments what you thought of this comparison, if you think that Dorian was super off or not in 1997, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below. With that all being said though, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.